They call them blue stars, and this is one from Missouri that's quite rare, and it's pretty local in the Midwest. But it sure loves my garden. It's been self-sowing and producing some little babies here and there, but it loves that icy blue color. Is really gorgeous, and it blooms for a very long time. And fortunately, some of the poppies decided to grow near it. That's the horn poppy, which is one of my sort of signature weeds, and the combination I think has been delightful. And then of course the pink gas plant behind. Gas plants are one of my really favorite groups of plants, and you'll see them in almost every bed because they kind of plant themselves around. They're in the citrus family. The blue flax I scattered seed, and it's starting to come up. This is our native blue flax, and it makes a wonderful combination with the poppies. The cliff rose, which is a native of the Colorado Plateau, all the canyon country in Utah and western Colorado, and in Arizona you'll find this, and it blooms, as you can see, in the early summer. Edward Abbey in Desert Solitaire dedicated an entire chapter to this. You know, it is such an inspiring plant when you see it in nature because it makes these incredibly gnarly sort of bonsai shapes on the cliffs. And then it blooms pretty much all summer. It blooms on and off all summer, but it has a big flush right now. And you can see it's loaded with even more buds. And what's amazing is that it has a very sweet fragrance. It's in the rose family. You can see it's kind of like a rose, but it's totally not spiny. And the other thing that's so wonderful about this is that the leaves are incredibly aromatic. This is just a fantastic plant, and it's one of our most beautiful native plants. And it's the sort of thing that ought to be used in median strips and all sorts of places because it needs no water. It comes from almost a desert environment. But what a beautiful flower that is. This is one of my favorite vignettes right now. It's kind of patriotic with red, white, and blue. But it also kind of symbolizes what I'm up to. This is the Colorado Columbine. We had the Colorado Native Plant Society touring yesterday. And of course our state flower was de rigueur. But it's our local native. And then here we have two natives of Southern Europe and Asia. The bright red peony is Paeonia peregrina, which grows in the Balkans, and it also grows in Greece, of course, which is where my family comes from. And but the red flower is from Turkey, so that you can see the Greeks and the Turks get along quite well here in the garden. And it's actually was discovered a little more than 100 years ago by Sprenger. It's Tulipa sprengeri. And you can see it's the tall-bearded iris season is coming on us quickly. I have a mixture of tall-bearded and old-fashioned irises. Tall-bearded iris are a phenomenon that came about in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Those are tall-bearded iris back there, and this is a really nice specimen here. And they're the largest of the bearded iris, are these tall hybrids. And what happened is that the chromosomes doubled on the old wild types of irises, and the doubled chromosomes produce much bigger flowers. And when that happened with a few plants, they were selected, they found some of these that happened, they began crossing those, and from those crosses they've developed a phenomenal variety of flowers, and they have these huge flowers. As you can see, they call them the poor man's orchid. Although if you want to buy some of the new hybrids, you better not be a poor man because they're not that cheap. But at any rate, they're pretty glorious plants. That's not a tall-bearded iris. That's one of the old diploid irises that are closely related, but they have half the number of chromosomes. They have extreme vigor, though. The old varieties are closer to nature, so to speak. And as they've hybridized these old tall-bearded irises into these new forms, they've lost a little bit of that vigor, so you have to kind of baby them more. The old Germanica type, the old old-fashioned bearded irises that and these have been sort of become unfashionable with the iris, some of the iris growers. And of course, there are people who specialize in growing these. And down at Chatfield, we actually have a collection of about 500 species and old-fashioned selections. It's probably one of the best collections in any public garden. And I'm really proud of how they maintain that. The staff down there have done a fantastic job. This is another one of these old-fashioned irises. This is iris, a form of iris variegata, and you can see it has the kind of variegated falls. This is a hybrid that was produced from variegata probably 100 years ago or so. And you can find this in old houses around Denver. A tree over there, that's a Chinese fringe tree. And we have an American fringe tree which is similar but is much smaller. The Chinese fringe tree can get up to 30 feet tall, even taller than that. And the flowers are incredibly fragrant. You can probably pick up that scent. It's almost like a lilac scent. The white Daphnes, this is one from Greece and Turkey again. I've seen that on Mount Olympus in both Turkey and Mount Olympus in Greece. And it's on almost every mountain in Greece. It's Daphne oleoides. Most of the plants have done really well this year, but the saxifrages aren't blooming as much as usual. This one is blooming pretty well, but I have clumps of this all over the hillside, and half of them don't even have a flower on them. So it's funny how the tulips went crazy this year and the irises, but the saxifrages, next year might be a better saxifrage year, but they're still pretty nice because this whole hillside, I have lots of them. And of course, they're the classic rock garden plant. Some of my greatest little treasures are tucked away. Believe it or not, that's a little petunia relative. It's called Petunia patagonica. And we have beautiful specimens of the Botanic Gardens growing in full sun on top of, in the step garden on there. This is a fern called a Chilanthes. At least that's what the name has always traditionally been. I think they're trying to change it, but it's they grow in very dry areas in the southwest. You'll even see them growing with saguaros, various kinds of Chilanthes and Pelleas and things in that group. This is one that's pretty much restricted to Colorado. It grows in a few neighboring states, but it's most abundant here. There you can see in front of the waterfall, there's an iris. That's a Siberian iris.